Enterprises is actually a non-IT part of Wipro. Wipro Group has two businesses. One is IT, which is a listed entity called Wipro Limited, and Wipro Enterprises takes care of all the bit that is there in the non-IT space. And we have primarily two business segments there. One is the consumer care and lighting, which is one segment, where we do quite a few of personal care products and home care, domestic care, and personal wellness products. We are also into e-tail, that being a new segment there as well. And we are into the lighting business where, in fact, technology is, growing by leaps and bounds, as well as in the furniture, which is primarily the office furniture business. And coming to the Wipro infrastructure engineering business, which we call as WIN, there, we call it as the muzzle of the industry, where we are in the hydraulics, where the hydraulic pumps, in fact, manufactured by Wipro infrastructure engineering business, in fact, power the battle tanks, and the hydraulic cylinders and the pistons, in fact, power the trucks, the construction equipment, the farming and mining equipment. Also, the aero engineering, which is part of WIN, in fact, manufactures the landing gear for most of the aircraft. So the aircraft that we are landing, is in fact using the landing gears manufactured by Wipro Enterprises. And we are into water treatment and water, in fact, purification business as well, where we do the treatment and implement, commission and implement, the water treatment plants into industrial, water treatment there, as well as we are into the 3D printing. In fact, last week we announced a partnership with Indian Institute of Science, wherein the first India-developed metallic 3D printing machine was in fact announced. And in fact, it may be a bit of surprising for you. The 3D printed part of Wipro Enterprises is in fact in the satellites launched by ISRO. The other new business that we are in is the industrial automation, wherein we are bringing in the solutions, robotic solutions for the local manufacturing, so that the local manufacturing can be ready with the Industry 4.0 standards. So this is the broad spectrum in which Wipro Enterprises operates. I think at the outset, let me discuss and talk on the challenges that any business has in today's world. It is, all of us concur that it is a VUCA environment, wherein we have volatility and ambiguity, complexity and uncertainty. So in this context, I just want to mention probably 4 C's, which are the challenges. The first one is the consumer. Today's consumer comes with probably, the browsing experience of maybe 10,000 hours plus. So he, has his choice very much cut out. It's, any choice is just a swipe away for him. So the biggest question, where does the balance lie? Is it in the loyalty or in the urge to try the novelty? The second C, which is evolving and is a challenge for us, is in fact colleagues. The millennials who come, bring their own outlooks, their own, in fact, approach to the world, as well as their own expectations, and this adds to the pressures in the organization. So the dynamics, in fact, alter radically. The third C I would, like to emphasize here is on the consumption of data specifically. Earlier, if you look at it, it was probably broadcasting, wherein or advertising, where you do one-to-many communication, whereas today, in this social media enabled world, it's become one-to-one. So broadcasting has become unicasting today. So that you need to understand the space of the customer and then place yourself there, otherwise somebody else will. The last challenge that I would rather say here is about the culture. Wipro Enterprises announced 2 weeks ago acquisition of an entity in the consumer care space in South Africa. So we are that was the consumer care's 12th acquisition, and this year itself Wipro Enterprises has acquired 3 major acquisitions. So what happens due to this is that there are multiple cultures come into play here, and as a result of which the whole thing is, how do you work in unison to achieve the vision and purpose? That becomes very critical. Now, how this gets in fact, how do you face these challenges? Technologically, what we may need to do is that it has to be embedded in envisioning the a vision, as well as in terms of articulating the whole purpose. So it has to be embedded into our processes here, and also the choice of the technological partner becomes a very, very key decision here. We need to have a partner who is present everywhere, number one, who can solve the issues. More than that, he should be invested very much with a long-term mindset, should have a depth, and should have the capability. So other than that, is the solution that we are looking at in this kind of an environment logically be very transparent, because trust is very critical to work in this kind of a multicultural environment. So the last point is that the solution should be in fact technologically aligned to the digital transformation strategy of the entity. So these are the broad parameters wherein I would like to classify the challenges and how do really one looks at it from addressing it. Evaluation of any new technology in fact depends on multiple factors. One of the factors that was paramount in our mind was how much resources it would consume internally. Now, and is that resource critical to the business? So this was one of the paramount decisions that we had to take, because on the on-prem solution you need constant support from the in-house team to manage it. The run organization would really be need to be kicking and working continuously. While that may not be from a priority point of view a big one from organization's vision. So that is one. Second thing is also from a data security, which is becoming very, very important. It's very critical that you really place your trust in a partner who can bring in that kind of a consciousness about the data security. The other aspect of moving from on-prem was what happens in a cloud environment is the speed is very clearly available, whereas in on-prem it depends on the server space that you have, the server size you have, where you have to constantly be in fact enhancing it, and the speed in the cloud environment is much higher, as a result of which probably I can run multiple consolidation in probably 1 hour, which used to take maybe a couple of hours or more in an on-prem environment. The biggest in fact factor I would rather say is the mitigation of the technological obsolescence, because earlier the versions used to change probably once in 3 or 4 years. Today the technology changes probably every other month, if not earlier. As a result of which, how do you really secure yourself from these technological changes that are happening is one of the big considerations, because mitigation is almost like an implement. The enhancement or in fact moving to a new version is almost like an implementation. The effort required is humongous out there. So to mitigate that, it's always better that you get onto a kind of a solution which gives you that technological obsolescence free environment. So which we found that in cloud it is available, and to have a partner who actually, as I mentioned earlier, who has invested long in that in fact, and also committed to long term in that space. Cost is always a very important parameter in the choice of technologies, because a lot of times earlier the whole model, traditional model, is own it, whereas the new model is not owning it but using it and continuously. So cost, only thing is in terms of the cost, probably we need to measure the cost over a period of time and not just the immediate cost that is there. So if you say take a 5 to 6 years of lifespan of a kind of a version that you have, and measure the cost and compare that with probably with the cloud platform, maybe you reap a lot of benefits. That is one part of it. More than that, the efficiency and the speed and the security, the data security that you get will also give you enormous kind of a benefit on the cloud platform. Probably that is one reason why I think we are in fact moving into a default situation where for any technological transformation, cloud platforms becomes the default choice, and you may need to defend if it is otherwise. So this is one or two benefits of probably moving on to the cloud platform. And other one that I would rather say is as it emphasized the transparency and the trust in an on-prem situation. What used to happen was a lot of times the access etc. used to be probably with the core team, and as a result of which the access available to the others outside when you are a multi-geographical entity would be very, very restricted. Whereas today I think it's very transparent, and anyone can take any report sitting anywhere in the world, being a global company, and that helps a lot. Speed, is another factor which I spoke about for any cloud solutions. And other aspect is the analytics that we get from the cloud solutions. For the simple reason, on-prem takes a lot of time, as I told you, depending on the way you designed it and the way your server spaces and the way you have been operating it. Whereas in on-prem, if you don't too much customize it and if you go and only configure it to your requirement, then the speed advantage what you get is enormous. So number one, it saves a lot of time for the team which is in fact doing this consolidation or the close or the planning, and allows them to utilize that time for more of analytics. And a kind of a cuts that one is able to obtain across multiple geographies on any of the head of expense or any of the items in the balance sheet quickly is enormous in a solution that comes from the cloud. So these are the advantages. And of course it is very, very light on the internal IT resources, which is also a very, very important factor.